Right, welcome back to the program. Time for us to take a look at the front pages this morning, just to give you a sense of the biggest stories making the rounds across some select national dailies. And we always like to start with a look at the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper for today, Thursday, February 29, 2024. Right, the big story is the one that we've been discussing for the past hour. And it says SIM NIN linkage. 11 million subscribers face blockage today. Ask for more time, obviously. NCC forecloses deadline extension. In other news, hardship. We were threatened to end protests, according to the NLC. Threatened by who or whom? More on that on page 26. I thought it was an organic decision because they came out of a national executive council meeting, and they said the first day of the protest has achieved its goal and there's no need for that. They extended the ultimatum by another 7 days. So it'll be interesting to read this story to understand where the threat is coming from. Japa, federal government recruits 2,497 doctors and others over the space of 6 months. This is according to the Minister of Health, and you can see him there in the picture alongside the Minister of Information and National Orientation, giving the breakdown of the doctors, nurses, midwives and community health extension workers that have been recruited into the system to augment and mitigate the gaps created by the departure of most of our health experts who have left the scene because of poor working conditions, to be honest. 2 kidnappers repent, request to join hunters in Taraba. You know what? Good for them. Good for them. It's important to give people room to, turn things around. But let's hope this is an honest one that will perhaps mark a turnaround for the security situation in Taraba State. Let's please turn our attention now to the Daily Independent. The Daily Independent for today. Oronsai reports execution won't lead to job loss, according to the federal government, doubling down again on what was a significant move by the Tinubu administration to address the rising cost of governance. Says reforms yielding results, hardship temporary. Not to Nigerians, they have been dealing with the hardship for quite some time now. It almost looks like the new normal. Edo PDP Guva bid at risk as Shuaibu threatens court action. Says he won the party's governorship primary election. Very typical of Nigerian politicians and typical of our political parties also, to be unable to do the basic thing that political parties should be able to do, which is to conduct primary elections. Tinubu assures Nigerians of proper lasting restructuring. Says Nigerians' pain over economic hardship won't be in vain. This was as he went to pay tribute in honor of the late Rotimi Akeredolu, and he was speaking to a host of leaders in the southwest during his visit. Senate throws army request to include Anambra into, I beg your pardon. Senate throws away request to include Anambra in NDDC. Airpeace crashes London return fares to 1.2 million naira economy and 4 million naira for business. Good for Airpeace. I think this whole thing went live yesterday, and I wish it was a little cheaper. Some of us would actually buy those tickets. But we'll read more on that on page 6. We will take drastic action against non-performing CMDs, according to the minister, yet again talking about the situation in the healthcare system. Nigeria aviation sector bleeding needs government intervention. Only rates review can sustain handling companies. Okay, this is coming from stakeholders from within the sector. And NNPCL, OPEC to collaborate to attract investments and grow production. Let's take a look at the News Direct next on our review this morning. Oronshai report, federal government allays fears of job losses. Dollar crashes by 6.45% to 1,450 naira in the parallel market. Well, the naira is rebounding, and I hope it continues to rebound in the days and weeks to come. NCC commits to local content development in telecommunications. And in other news, federal government doubles first tranche of basic healthcare fund to 50 billion naira, resumes payment of 25,000 naira palliative to 12 million households. Again, one would say, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Haven't we done enough of this already to know that it doesn't sustainably work? Tinubu arrives Lagos for commissioning of Lagos Rail Red Line. Harvard to spotlight Tony Elumelu Foundation as case study in curriculum. And I believe that is the president arriving Lagos, I believe, or was it Ogun State or Ondo State, I beg your pardon, during that visit yesterday. But he's going to be in Lagos for the commissioning of the Red Line as part of the transportation transformation in Lagos State. The Guardian is up next, so let's take a look at the front page of the Guardian newspaper as we wrap up the newspaper review this morning. Nigeria spends about 50% of oil earnings on production cost, so that's not good. And you can see an infographic there. Let me just read the caption there just to give you context. NNPC alone spent over 267.9 billion naira on securing its assets in 16 months, which means the entire industry could be spending about 1 trillion naira on insecurity in the period. And it gives you a breakdown per barrel cost of oil production by country. Look at where Nigeria is. $43 to produce 1 barrel. Well, that's just too much, isn't it? Too much. The United Kingdom, that is not known for oil production, is spending a similar amount. But, I mean, look at your Saudi Arabia's, the Brazil, Iran, Iraq, less than that, almost by 200% compared to that. The average cost of producing a barrel of crude oil is $25. So why is ours at 43? That means we really have to do a lot more in addressing the security issues in our oil production. IEDs killed 2 workers at Borno construction sites. Rather unfortunate. Nigeria okays $17.6 billion oil development plan as rigs jump to 30. Federal government recruits 2,497 medical professionals to address brain drain. Interest rate hike takes toll on stock markets as investors lose 1.4 trillion naira. Yes, a significant number of the companies were all in the red yesterday at the close of the stock market. Disconnection imminent as subscribers flood NIMC telco outlets. How federal government threatened, intimidated us to suspend nationwide protests, coming from the NLC president. It will be interesting to read this one and why the organized labor didn't just tell us that they were threatened in the first place, only for us to hear about this much later. Probe panel on Buhari government's 30 trillion naira loan sits next week to summon CBN officials. I think they're still talking about the ways and means that the MFLA CBN-led administration pretty much gave the Buhari government, and that has caused quite the stir over the past couple of days, and now the Senate is going to sit on that to deliberate on the best course of action to find a way to, give answers to Nigerians. But I would say that most Nigerians are limiting their expectations about what they can expect realistically from the Nigerian Senate on this particular matter. Let's delve into some of the stories now and interrogate the backstory and what this means and give you some sort of context with our analysis today. Joining us on the program is Malan Nasser Lawal, editor-in-chief of Deadline Nigeria newspaper, and he's joining us this morning. Apparently, Malan Nasser is innocent of the charges leveled against him last week for abdicating his role as our newspaper review analyst. No thanks to our producer, who of course did not make alternative plans for that. So I had to clear Malan Nasser's name because our viewers were already not happy with you last week, not knowing that you had nothing to do with your absence yesterday. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. As always, it's good to see you. Let's start with the big story on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. 11 million subscribers face blockage today. And I have to ask, is your SIM card linked?
Well, it's still working because this morning the producer called me,
right.
To be sure that I was actually going to make an appearance. So it's working because I was able to do my, is it linkage or do you call it the scene?
Was it seamless? Was it stress-free?
Well, it was because I did it, quite a while ago. Not because,
Recently.
the problem with Nigerians, we like rushing things. This is something that was not mentioned yesterday. We started it long ago, but sometimes we will rather wait until the last minute and you will see unnecessary rush and what have you. And somehow you also wonder why wait until now to remind Nigerians that yes, there is not going to be any extension of the deadline. And the problem with us, maybe when the pressure becomes too much, the NCC will now come up with a statement to say, okay, we're giving extra 7 days or 5 days. But the longer you keep, extending these deadlines, the more held back Nigerians will be. They will rather stay back and wait until the last minute and then begin the rush all over again.
I mean, you must have heard from some of our callers this morning. There are some who actually have genuine cases of, how the system itself is not functioning properly. Some who have had to link their NIN only to be told to come back and do it again. And then there's the whole waiting period with getting your NIN, for instance, nowadays. We've done several reports on that. The downtime is just way too much for Nigerians to bear. What do you think about the system itself, especially with regards to some of the imperfections that need to be addressed, so that we can assure Nigerians of seamlessness when it comes to enrollment as well as doing the needful?
Well, the problem is we like transferring the burden to the ordinary Nigerians. What I should expect is if, for instance, any of the relevant or the responsible agencies fails in his duty, there should be punishment. It's not for us to just say Nigerians are finding it difficult and because of that, that's the basis for them looking for extension and what have you. Those who are responsible for those Nigerians not being able to do all the things that they wanted to do, within the time available, honestly, should also be made to face the music. It's not just for us to say Nigerians fail to do it, and then whoever fails, has his own self to blame. I don't think that's the way to go.
Okay, so let's talk about this one. The NLC is coming with a fresh take on why it decided to suspend the second day of its planned 2-day nationwide strike. The first statement was that there was an emergency meeting late on Tuesday night, and by 9 o'clock on Tuesday night, they had come out with a statement to say the next day there will be no protests. Today's protest was successful, and that we're extending the ultimatum that we've given the federal government by another 7 days. Now we understand that they were threatened and intimidated, to use the words of the NLC president. What do you make of this, new perspective?
I think the NLC should actually rethink, its strategies, because even before they held the first day of the protest, some of their known allies like the TUC and what have you pulled out of that protest. So now they are telling us that they were actually threatened to do that. But before they embarked on that protest, what they told Nigerians was that, look, nobody will threaten us. We have a right to do this. Even if you are saying that this thing can turn violent or it can be hijacked, then it's the responsibility of the security agencies to make sure that there is security in the country. It's not for us to say that, okay, we are organizing a protest and then we'll also be responsible for the security. It's not our business. But the problem is, if you are now coming to tell Nigerians that you are threatened to suspend the strike, then how sure are we that the ultimatum that you have, extended to the president again, you are not going to do it all over again, that you will not be threatened again, to also suspend it. That's why I said, honestly, they need to rethink their strategy, because if after all this, all it needs is for somebody to just say, we'll waylay you here, we'll do this to you, and then you step back out of it. Honestly, I don't think that's a good explanation to make to Nigerians. They should rethink their strategy. What is the best way to make the government, to do all the things that you want the government to do without necessarily embarking on protest, doing things that at the end of the day, you end up suffering the ordinary Nigerians that you are actually claiming to be protecting.
Do you think protests have lost their effectiveness generally, especially in the Nigerian context, and that's why, they're not as impactful as they once were, with regards to forcing the government to do the bidding of the organized labor, or at least meet them halfway with their demands?
I think that's the situation actually, because we keep holding protest. Somehow before the protest, the government will come out to say, don't do it, there is a court case, there is this, there is that, don't do it, it can be hijacked, so many things. But it's clear that the government is not considering this protest as having any impact on what they intend to do. You can hear even from what the president said when he visited the Afenifere leaders yesterday, that, okay, I am responsible for all the things that are happening. So, and somehow, we are also allowing state governors to get away with so many things. We channel all our attention to the center, and then we allow the states to literally get away with
stay in the shadows.
Yeah, because what we don't understand, or what we don't know, is the fact that in the states, how many of them are even paying the minimum wage, for instance? Very few. Yeah. And then the labor is not even fighting the state governors. It will rather fight the center, believing that maybe the president is more influential than all the state governors. But there is a limit to what the president can do, because we are operating a federal system of government. The states are expected to have their own autonomy. There are things that the federal government cannot force the state governments to do. So honestly, the NLC, I think that's the best way to go about it. Rethink your strategy and then see how you can do it.
Yeah, okay. There's always a need for the NLC to look into its playbook one more time to find something that will stick when it comes to getting the administration, this or the next one, to address the concerns of Nigerians and the workers of the various unions across board. Let's talk about what the federal government says is a net positive, that despite the departure of thousands of our health professionals, they are doing enough to mitigate this labor workforce gap. They say they have recruited 2,497 doctors and others, nurses and midwives and community health extension workers. And of course, they're talking about revitalizing the primary health care and doing all of these things. Do you think this answers the question about the unending challenges within our healthcare system right now? Because the conditions are still quite unpalatable for most of these health professionals who could be doing a lot better if they go to nearby Benin Republic, for instance.
Well, I think it's good that the government is coming out to state its own position. But if you remember what the enemy told us, I can't remember the exact figures, but you know, I don't think the number of those who left Nigeria, this is up to the number. So many people left Nigeria, I think about 5,000 or so, I can't remember.
And counting.
Yeah, and then and then you are talking about, you know, recruiting 2,600, 500 at the most, and then I don't think that's like replacing those that we have lost. What we should be doing is to look at the conditions, you know, that, you know, created the avenues for those who left, you know, to leave. So if we are able to do that, then we don't have to be coming up with all these explanations that honestly Nigerians will not even understand, because what's even the ratio, you know, of a doctor to patients in Nigeria? Have we been able to, like, you know, close the gap? We've not been able to do that, and then still we are losing our best hands to foreign countries, sometimes even here in Africa, and then you wonder the condition of service in the country, because if our condition of service is good, there are not everybody wants to go to a foreign land, you know, and start trying to acclimatize, you know, and then get acculturated to some of the things that you are not used to. So honestly, it's good that, like I said, the government is coming out to explain that this is what we are doing, but I think the most important thing for the government to do is to be able to address, you know, the scenario, the situation that allows for Nigerians to leave the country in search of greener pastures abroad.
Right. I couldn't agree more, because clearly the current situation is leaving much to be desired in terms of service delivery, and of course also getting some of the best hands to work here at home. Let's turn our attention now to the front page of the Nigerian News Direct, because there are a lot of stories that we need to take a look at there, especially with regards to the Oronshai report. Federal government is allaying fears of job losses. I don't know what your take is since the report came out, since the position of the Tinubu administration came out that it wants to implement this particular report. There are some who are saying the report is outdated. I mean, it was done like 12 years ago or something. 12 years later, we've had new commissions, new agencies and things like that that are supposed to target different areas. So the report is not what it was, you know, it does not have the same virality, so to say, to address, you know, the same issue. But what is your take on this? You know, the assurances that there will be no job losses and things like that, and this is what's best for Nigeria.
Well, let me start by with what you said. Like when Oronshai report was released, they were talking about the need to reduce agencies from 260 something to one, you know, a little below 100 or so. And right now we have, I think, close to 400 or so. So I am one of those who actually believe that, yes, the report is outdated, but then we have to give it to the president. You know, he has that political will to be able to take the lead, you know, no matter how or what some people may think. But then if you're also talking about cost cutting, because that's like the major argument that the government made, that we are doing this to
save cost.
To save cost. But honestly, I don't see how you will be able to do that, because one, you said you are not going to sack anybody. That means if a particular agency is paying 10,000 naira, for instance, as the overhead cost, that overhead is going to be like transferred to whichever agency or department or government agency that is, you know, going to take over their functions. So if that is the case, honestly, I don't see how we'll be able to reduce the cost. Yes, nobody will ask the government to start rationalization at this particular point in time when so many people have lost their means of livelihood. So that wouldn't be my own argument. But to say that you are doing it to cut cost, and then there is not going to be any job losses. Honestly, I don't see.
I think maybe they need
how
to
that is
qualify the
possible.
job losses. Maybe they say there will be no significant job losses,
Probably, because
I reckon that if agencies or commissions are going to become departments now, you don't need executive directors or things like that, because it just doesn't make sense to have too many chefs in the kitchen, because it will definitely make for bad cooking. But also, in talking about the forex volatility, the naira versus dollar has crashed to 6.45%, by 6.45%, and the naira has gained a little bit. Does this inspire hope, especially now that the MPR has been jacked up to 22.75%? According to the CBN, this is all an effort to address inflationary trend and also ensure currency stability. Are you momentarily optimistic about what this means?
Well, I am hopeful, of course, but honestly, maybe we are trying to celebrate too early, because this is just like how many days, and we've been here before. This is not the first time that the naira will, appear to be staging a comeback, only for it to nosedive again. So honestly, I wouldn't want to resort to what many Nigerians are now doing, to say that the best we can do is to pray. No, we have so many people that are responsible for tackling these issues. So let them do the things that we expect them to do, and please let them stop talking about it's not our fault, we inherited this. Yes, you inherited it, but it's a challenge to you now. This is something that you need to face headlong. So don't be telling Nigerians that no, I inherited it, it's not my fault and what have you. You are now in charge. Please do what we all expect you to do. If you cannot do it, like you said earlier, if you cannot withstand this, just get out of the kitchen.
Okay, and finally, let's talk about the probe. The panel on the Buhari government's 30 trillion naira loan sits next week and is set to summon CBN officials to get some of the answers. We're talking about the ways and means. The Senate has raised so much eyebrows on that. Just as a final thought, what is your expectation from this brouhaha that the Buhari administration is now under the radar, is on the radar, so to say, of the National Assembly?
Well, I hope the National Assembly will do what Nigerians will expect, a probe panel to do, because I don't know, sometimes they will do it as if somebody is just pushing them into it, something that they are not actually ready to embark on. So if they are able to do that, to get to the bottom of most of these things, honestly, it will be good for the country. Even if in the end, whatever they may uncover, the government may not act on it, at least they will have done their own part to say that, okay, this is what we uncovered, this is what Mr. A did, this is what Mr. B did, and then Nigerians will now appreciate and understand what actually happened under during the days of the Buhari administration. But if they know, that this is going to be just like window dressing and what have you, honestly, they should spare Nigerians the trouble, and then, just get onto something that Nigerians can now pay their attention.
One of the prescriptions, health prescription for the current situation in Nigeria is manage your expectations. Learn to manage your expectations, and perhaps you will not be disappointed by the outcome of some of these situations. But we'll wait and see what happens next week as the committee sits to investigate what has been, I must say, consensus that a lot of irregularities did happen over the past 8 years and counting, and there needs to be answers for that. Malan Nasir, as always, thank you so much for the invaluable insights. Appreciate you for the analysis this morning. Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, this is where we draw the curtains on today's edition of the program. Daybreak returns tomorrow live at 8 a.m. on Trust TV. Until then, my name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you for watching the program, and we'll see you next time.